welcome back, and if you're new here, thanks for checking out this actual video. Today I'm in the workshop. The weather is pretty poor out there, but I've got to be, and I need to be in here. I've got myself in a little bit of a jam. I've got a craft fair and I am now going flat out to get stock together. I always seem to be in this position. I just trickle along and then I end up having to rush to get stock together. That's something I will address next year, because it gets a little bit hairy into the wire on a lot of occasions to get enough stock together. And I don't want to continue doing that. I'd rather just do a steady flow, keep my stock going, rather than end up in this rush. But I'll let you have a quick little look around what's happening in here at the moment. So here I have a hiking stick, a one-piece model, which I'm actually putting through the workshop at this moment. In fact, I'll be putting many through today. But as you can see, I've got it debarked to a suitable standard that I want this one to have. I'm now beginning to put a handle on it and a crown. And I've already made the very crude attempt at getting the chamfer right, which will accept the copper tip, but that needs a lot more work. So as you can see, I'm working on this one at the moment. Bit of a mess here. You know, obviously you can't escape sanding paper. I don't usually like to be indoors doing the sanding, but I've got a mask. It's just too windy and too bad a weather. Right, I've got 5 blanks there, all fully ready to go. So far as they need wood burning, they need finishing, they need the copper tips on the bottom. Obviously there's still a lot of work, but I'm trying to do it in batches. Hence why I'm now going to go flat out, get a load of them done, and then put them through in one go, so I don't have to stop each particular manufacturing process. I've got these 3 here saved back because these are going to be, 2 of them will be the Valhalla model, which is like a limited edition I do, and I've also got one which I'm earmarking for a new. I'm going to experiment with what I want to try and make, is what I'm going to call it the bushwhacking model, which is going to be a heavy gauged item, specifically chosen for like bushwhacking and breaking open trails. I got some blanks there which are yet to be sized, drilled, and handles, the shape of handle determined. And I've got some there, when I push past here, which you can see amongst the copper pipe here. They've already been drilled there and sized, cut. They'll be making their way into the workstation and going through to the end. So as you can see today, I've got a lot of work in here, and on top of that, I've got a custom order for a deer antler, and yeah, my milliput has actually gone off, or it's not as it should be to use, so I've had to order some more of that and the deer antler. So yeah, you can see it's pretty busy in here at the moment. When you're doing the rough shaping, you know, you have to be careful, particularly when you're doing the crown, with items like this rasp, because it can actually take too much wood off and split the wood. So you have to be a little bit careful when you do that. But you know, obviously that will come with experience. All I'm doing is getting the rough shape. I'll do the delicate work by hand later on. But I've got to take the meat of the wood off. Now obviously, because I'm doing a vast quantity, there is a little bit of urgency with speed. And I'm just gauging that, you know, to give me something I can work with. And I'll just continue doing this. This isn't going to be the fine work. And it's knowing when to stop and move to the next tool, so you don't damage the wood where you can't sand it out, or bring it back. And I can see at this angle I'm starting to chip into the wood. So I'm going to have to move off this tool. It's just too aggressive at this particular point. At this point I'm moving to a medium file which I can now work this crown. But like I said, all this will become apparent with experience. Like I say, you do not want to damage the wood where you can't pull it back or do nothing with it. And I'm just going to work this around to give me a uniform handle or crown on the handle. Because some of my models, or a large majority, require at least 85% of the bark removed down to the wood itself, I've been doing that using a blunt edge coming down over it, almost like a cabinet scraper. But I find if you use something not fully sharp, it won't dig into the wood. You can pull it down and remove the bark, and I think I've shown that in another video. But doing that method over the last 3 years has placed a lot of strain, and I have had a lot of recurring repetitive strain injury because it's just a constant motion of dragging it with a lot of force down over the stick. And obviously, the human body wasn't designed for that. So I've had to kind of look for another method. I still use that if I'm doing 1 or 2 chosen pieces which I might need to salvage the knots, or I want those knots to stay there and be extremely prominent. I don't want to take those knots out, as in take them back flush to the wood shaft itself. So the method I'm adopting, if I'm not looking to salvage the knots, is I've been using a plane to just remove the outer bark down to the wood. Now I don't take it all, I just take it moving around the actual stick to create the effect of almost like multiple hexagonal shapes all the way around the shaft, and I then have to pull that back to its original shape. I then move on to a smaller rasp just to pull those square lines, shall I say, off the actual shaft, and that's in a very gentle motion running along it like that. But that in itself will leave marks in its own right. I then use, this is a machete. You would be correct in thinking that, and you're thinking, what am I doing using this with a stick? Well, I've sharpened this well past what a machete really should be, because it shouldn't be, stupidly sharp, but I just use this to draw finely down over the wood, like a cabinet scraper almost, just to remove any of the working lines, and then I move on to the sandpaper. And using that method, it saves me a lot of, shall we say, that strenuous work of trying to remove all the bark using the scraping method. It does create other issues for me, because obviously it leaves a lot more tool marks in the wood, and that means a lot more sanding to get them out. But that's a lot easier than trying to remove the bark, because you have to remember I'm doing it on multiple sticks at the same time. So here you can see one that I've completed to the point where I need to move on to the next stage of production, compared to the one I'm actually working here now. And as you can see, this one is now at its finished sanding state. Obviously, if this was a custom order, I may go a bit further, but this is a generic stick that's going on a stall or to the craft fair, so it's at the stage I'm happy to allow it to go like it is now. But as you can see the amount of work to the left hand one, to the right, that I now have to do to pull this one back to this condition. Right then, the three main tools to get all these working marks out of the wood that I've just shown you. For me at this particular point, before I reach sandpaper, is going to be the file. As I showed you, the machete to draw back over the actual stick. And an extremely sharp knife. And this one here, I just gently work over just to bring back the actual shape of the wood. And I can already see that because I've been reasonably careful with this one, even though it looks like it has a lot of marks, I can do a lot of it with the knife. And all I'm doing is looking at the wood and I'm actually shaping the actual shaft. And as you can see, I have these very thin filings that are being pulled off with the knife, and you see some on the knife there. So basically what I'm doing is I'm running it down over very gently on a flat, well, it's basically a square edge I'm putting against it, and I'm bringing it down like this to remove any of the lines and to bring back like a uniformed roundness to the actual shaft. Like I said, it's a lot of work the way I'm doing it at the moment, but I'm doing it to prevent myself with that recurring injury, because that repetitive injury was actually quite debilitating in the fact that it actually hurt to make hiking sticks. And if something's hurting to make hiking sticks, you really are actually doing something wrong, and you need to try and do something different. The odd little stubborn area that I just want to take back a bit, which might be a little knot, which I just need to take it back a bit more, so I'm not there forever and ever with a bit of sandpaper. I just use the very fine file, and I can see I've got a really rough bit there. So what I'm doing is just helping myself when I go to sandpaper. Just taking it off a little bit. In a lot of regards, you're always trying to think of the next job ahead of you and how you can aid and speed it up. And I'm taking a lot of the roughness off that knot there, so sandpaper will deal with it a lot easier. So at this point here now, you can see I've roughly got my shape back, but obviously this isn't the finished item. I now have to move on to sandpaper, and that will be just simply a block, one that I've made myself. I've just glued a bit of rubber to the or foam, shall I say, and it's got enough resistance to allow the paper to touch the wood in all the places it needs to, and obviously because it's flexible, I can move over knots in that, and it will flow not only with the block, but also the foam allows it to touch bits and not touch bits as I move up and down the actual stick. And it's a useful basic tool for stick making. Actually, you obviously have this end, the hard end, you can really get a lot of pressure to get stubborn marks out, and then come back to the foam backed bit just for the finer detailed work. But in any case, I'm now moving on to a really hard, aggressive bit of sandpaper, and I will be here for some time now, aggressively moving up and down the actual shaft of the stick now before I go down through the grades. But this is where obviously I now put on my mask, because obviously dust is a major issue. I do like doing this outdoors, but like I said, today I don't have that option, and I don't have extraction in here, so I am forced to wear a mask for my own protection. So yeah, let's get to it. And quite simply with this, all I'm doing is following the lines that I can see because I'm trying, as you can see, to leave patches of bark which, you know, when I finish it, that will illustrate that it is a natural product and it isn't a product that's been taken from, you know, just milled down from a piece of wood. This is actually, you know, I still want it to have that authentic from the woods look and feel. I have to work around these bits of bark here so I don't destroy them. So yeah, you know, it does require a little bit of, you know, ability to look, see, gauge, and, you know, be able to present the actual finished item, which I'm trying to do, a look from the woods, and it be something that's in keeping with my Folklore brand. So yeah, I'm going to be here for some time. Yeah, so this is just a quick update what's happening in the workshop as to regard to Folklore hiking sticks. And as you can see, I'm pretty busy today, and you know, I'm looking out the windows now. It's not worth me thinking about hiking in any meaningful way, or even scampering down the coast for a surf in some little cove. So I'm here utilising my time in the workshop, and to be honest with you, as I said at the very start, you know, I need to pull my finger out. So yeah, this is Andy, and yeah, I hope to catch you out on the trail, and I hope you've enjoyed just a little look see what's happening in the Folklore workshop. Cheers.